Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are on Tuesday, November 7th. I thought with earnings coming up that we would check in on Upstart today to see, based on its reaction to earnings, if it decides to boom, decides to bust, decides to move sideways, what levels, what trend lines, what EMAs, might sort of play a factor that we can kind of watch and see how it reacts at those different levels. So as you see, it's had a jumpy week already, which I kind of cut with a double-edged sword. So this day was up over 11.5%, over 10.5% this day. Then it pulled back a little over 3%, and now is up today a little over 2%. So all in all, these two big days left a couple of gaps. You see a gap here to the downside. That's from about 28.30 down to 27.47, and then another gap, 25.64 down to 24.67. So Upstart is just a gappy stock. There's one up here as well that's still sitting there, way up in the 40s. So we'll see with those gaps kind of lingering there and the price hovering above them right now, what that brings, or if those play any part in the reaction to earnings. The double-edged sword that I'm speaking about, just to be clear, is sometimes it can be great to get some upward motion headed into earnings. Sometimes that helps fuel some additional momentum, some bullish momentum that continues it to the upside based off of the earnings call. Sometimes the move becomes sort of priced in, and even if there's a good earnings report, which I don't know that there will be, but for example, even if there is, sometimes it will sell off because investors and traders will sort of think, well, this is priced in by the recent uptick in the price, and so I'm going to lock in my profit here and just sort of say that was a good earnings call, but we had already priced it in beforehand. So that's where it can be just a little tough to say, because you essentially end up trying to predict the future, which is not what we do here. So that said, it's obviously trying to base right now over this like 2870 area. So being that it's batted itself between that and the 3064 the last couple of days, I'd be interested to see where it starts to move toward and what it starts to do at either of those levels. In other words, does it confirm support over that 2870 and move to try to retake or take that 3064 as support? Does it lose support at 2870 and clearly confirm that as resistance, which would then put it very quickly into this gap? And what does it do in that gap? So pretty interesting sort of setup as it pertains to those kind of things. We do have this sort of pretty lackadaisical uptrend support as well, which, I'm interested to see what it does when it really gets a test. It's sort of walking up to establish it. Certainly doesn't feel like a test to me. I want to see it get some distance and then come and sort of smash into it and see if it holds up then. And so if it, draws down pretty heavy, we may get a test of that as well, or even if it walks relatively sideways, in just a few days, or a couple weeks, I guess, it would collide with that regardless. Now, if we hide these for a moment, take a look at some of our indicators here. EMA, we see a bullish crossover, the 8 crossing above the 21, threatening to cross above the 34. That's all bullish formation action. So if that continues to take shape, that could help buoy the stock as well. So the EMA formation here could provide some additional lift, or if it does pull back, may provide additional support levels, as these are all basically sitting right on top of each other, right? So these are really close in. If the price comes down, it's going to hit all of these relatively at the same time, not truly at the same time, but very, very tight proximity to each other. So that could serve as sort of like a strong support cloud, if you will. Now, if we look at the channel setup, it is pushing toward the upper bound of the channel, so that's where it finally shoved off yesterday as it made this big motion up. It had fallen out of the channel, came up, big motion to the mid-range of the channel, and then just boomed itself right to the upper bound. And then on the following day, upper bound pushed back and said, nope, get back into the channel. So that's sort of where it's situated right now. So again, does it need to come down and retest all the way to the mid-range? Is it going to be able to ride the upper bound of the channel? Is it going to try to squirt itself back out the upper bound of the channel? Those are sort of things that I'm looking for on that front. And then lastly, TTM squeeze indicator, because this relative sideways motion and then this swing in both directions, strong swing in both directions, it's sort of flattened out. It's, yes, slightly bearish, but by this point is basically sitting at the baseline. And so nothing really taking strong shape there. I do wonder if this trigger and fire has fully played out or not. With such a big catalyst that, we may never know, to be honest. It may play out regardless, but it is interesting. We had trigger and we had the counter move, and then we had the big move upward. But those were relatively even. So it was sort of an interesting sort of fire that just kind of resulted in really strong motions in both directions. The other thing that does give me a little bit of sort of wonder in the bullish direction is this swing high was clearly overcame this swing high. And so while we had a lower swing low here, this recent swing high was higher. So that's where it's sort of just kind of, it's swinging low and it's swinging lower. It's swinging high and it's swinging higher. And that's where it's just kind of playing both ends of the spectrum. And I'm really interested to see how the market reacts based off of the earnings call. And if the market feels like, if it is a good call, that it was priced in. Obviously, if it's a bad call, if it's going to react negatively to that, or if there's some saving grace that sort of makes it not catastrophic, who knows? But these are the levels that I'm looking at. Gaps to me seem important. Uptrend support obviously seems important. And then these support and resistance levels. All right, folks, I hope that your trading week is going well. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.